The sun hung low over the hidden leaf village, casting long shadows across the training grounds where Naruto Uzumaki stood, his bright orange jumpsuit a stark contrast against the darkening sky. He wiped sweat from his brow, his blue eyes sharp with determination. Today wasn't just another training session, it was a test. Rumors had spread of a rogue puppet master lurking in the forests beyond the village, one who wielded a mysterious puppet capable of manipulating shadows themselves. Naruto clenched his fists, his knuckles whitening. If this threat was real, he wouldn't let it endanger his home. Nearby, the rustling of leaves signaled the arrival of Shikamaru Nara, his hands tucked lazily into his pockets. "You're really going after this guy, huh?" he drawled, though his usual lethargy was undercut by a flicker of concern. Shadow manipulation isn't something to take lightly. If this puppet can control them, it's bad news. Naruto grinned, flashing his trademark confidence. "Hey, since when do I back down from a fight? Besides, I've got a few tricks up my sleeve." Shikamaru sighed but nodded. "Just don't get yourself killed. Shadow techniques are my family's specialty, and even I'd think twice before tangling with something like this." The forest was eerily silent as Naruto ventured deeper, the usual chirping of birds absent. The air felt heavy, as if the shadows themselves were watching. Suddenly, a chilling laugh echoed through the trees. "So, the infamous Naruto Uzumaki has come to play," a voice hissed. From the darkness emerged a tall, gaunt figure draped in tattered robes, his fingers twitching like spiders' legs. Beside him stood a grotesque puppet, its wooden limbs etched with eerie symbols, its hollow eyes glowing with an unnatural light. "Meet Kurikage," the puppet master sneered. "The shadows will made flesh." Naruto's muscles tensed. He could feel the malice radiating from the puppet, its very presence distorting the light around it. Without warning, Kurikage lunged, its arms elongating like liquid darkness, slicing through the air with razor-sharp claws. Naruto barely dodged, rolling to the side as the ground where he'd stood split open. "Fast little pest," the puppet master taunted. Naruto gritted his teeth and formed a hand sign. Shadow Clone Jutsu. In a burst of smoke, a dozen Narutos materialized, charging from all angles. But Kurikage's grin widened, and with a flick of its wrist, the shadows at the clone's feet twisted like living ropes, yanking them into the ground where they dissolved into smoke. Naruto's eyes widened. "It can control the shadows of my clones?" The puppet master cackled. "Your tricks are meaningless. Kurikage devours light itself." The puppet's body shuddered, then split into multiple shadowy duplicates, each one darting toward Naruto with lethal precision. He barely had time to react, a shadowy blade grazed his arm, drawing blood. Gritting his pain, Naruto channeled chakra into his palm, a swirling sphere of energy forming. Rasengan. He slammed it into one of the duplicates, vaporizing it, but three more took its place. The real Kurikage lunged from behind, its clawed hand aiming for Naruto's back. At the last second, he twisted, barely avoiding a fatal strike, but the puppet's other hand lashed out, wrapping around his ankle with a grip like iron. The shadow surged up his leg, freezing him in place. "Got you," the puppet master gloated. Naruto struggled, but the darkness was seeping into his veins, sapping his strength. His vision blurred, and for a moment, he saw his own shadow grinning back at him, its eyes gleaming with malice. Then, a surge of familiar energy erupted within him. The Nine Tails chakra flared to life, a crimson aura bursting from his body, burning away the shadows like paper. The puppet master staggered back in shock. "What?" Naruto's voice deepened, his pupils slitting like a fox's. "You messed with the wrong ninja," he growled. His speed multiplied, and in an instant, he was behind Kurikage, his Rasengan now cloaked in the Nine Tails energy. With a roar, he drove it into the puppet's back, the force sending shockwaves through the forest. Wood splintered, and Kurikage let out a screech as its body cracked apart. But the puppet master wasn't done. With a snarl, he bit his thumb and smeared blood on the ground. "You think it's that easy? Kurikage is eternal." The shattered pieces of the puppet twitched, then melted into the shadows, reforming into something even more monstrous, a towering amalgamation of darkness and splintered wood, its maw gaping with rows of jagged teeth. Naruto smirked, his whisker marks darkening. "Bring it on." The battle had only just begun. The battlefield was a chaotic storm of dust and shadows as Naruto Uzumaki skidded to a halt, his blue eyes narrowing at the towering puppet before him. Its wooden limbs creaked with unnatural movement, tendrils of darkness swirling around its jagged fingers like living smoke. Across the ruined village square, Shikamaru lay panting, his shadow stitching technique barely holding the monstrosity at bay. "Naruto," he gasped, "this thing, it's not just controlling shadows. It's feeding on them." Naruto clenched his fists, the familiar surge of Kurama's chakra flaring around him in an orange haze. Then we hit it with something it can't swallow. He launched forward, his body a blur as he weaved through the puppet's grasping shadow tendrils. With a roar, he swung a Rasengan straight for its chest, only for the attack to dissolve into the abyss swirling within the puppet's hollow core. The creature retaliated with a whip-like strike of darkness, sending Naruto crashing through a crumbling wall. Shikamaru gritted his teeth, forcing his exhausted body upright. His mind raced, direct attacks weren't working. The puppet absorbed shadow-based techniques, and physical blows just bounced off its reinforced frame. But if they couldn't overpower it, maybe they could outsmart it. Naruto, he shouted, we need to disrupt its control. It's using the environment's shadows, eliminate the light source. Naruto wiped blood from his lip, smirking. Got it. He formed a series of rapid hand seals, summoning a swarm of shadow clones. They scattered in all directions, some hurling kunai with explosive tags at nearby lanterns while others charged the puppet as distractions. The explosions shattered the remaining light sources, plunging the square into near total darkness. For a moment, the puppet staggered, its movement sluggish as its shadow-fueled power waned. But then the creature let out a guttural screech, and the darkness itself seemed to pulse. The shadows at its feet surged upward, forming jagged spikes that impaled several clones. Shikamaru's eyes widened. Damn it, it's adapting. The puppet wasn't just reliant on external shadows anymore, it was generating its own. Naruto's clones vanished in puffs of smoke as he rolled aside, barely avoiding a scythe-like slash of darkness. He could feel Kurama's growl reverberate in his mind. This thing's playing dirty. You gonna let it show you up? Naruto grinned. Hell no. His chakra flared violently, the orange aura intensifying into a crimson cloak as he tapped into the Nine Tails' deeper power. His nails sharpened into claws, his pupils thinning into slits. Let's see how it likes this. He lunged, his speed now unmatched, and this time, his strikes left cracks in the puppet's wooden shell. The creature reeled, its shadowy defenses struggling to keep up. But just as Naruto reared back for a finishing blow, the puppet's chest split open, revealing a swirling vortex of darkness that yanked him forward with terrifying force. Shikamaru acted instantly, his shadow shooting across the ground to latch onto Naruto's ankle, anchoring him. Don't let it pull you in, he shouted. Naruto growled, digging his claws into the earth, but the suction was relentless. The puppet's hollow core pulsed hungrily, as if sensing victory. Then, a flash of silver. A kunai embedded itself in the puppet's eye socket, followed by a chain of explosive tags. The resulting blast sent the creature stumbling back, breaking its hold. Naruto and Shikamaru turned to see Temari landing beside them, her fan already spinning. Took you long enough, she said dryly. With the puppet momentarily disoriented, Shikamaru seized the opportunity. Naruto, I've got a plan, but I need you to keep it still. Naruto nodded, charging ahead as Temari unleashed a slicing whirlwind to keep the shadows at bay. Shikamaru's hands moved in a blur, his shadow stretching impossibly thin before splitting into dozens of threads that snaked toward the puppet's limbs. The creature thrashed, but Naruto was already on it, his crimson chakra flaring as he delivered a devastating uppercut, sending it airborne. Shikamaru's shadows latched on mid-air, weaving a net that suspended the puppet in place. Now, he yelled. Temari swung her fan with all her strength, unleashing a hurricane force gust that shredded the puppet's wooden body. Naruto, channeling every ounce of Kurama's power, formed a massive Rasengan, its spiraling energy crackling violently. With a battle cry, he slammed it straight into the puppet's core. The explosion lit up the night. The puppet's form shattered, its shadowy essence screaming as it was torn apart. For a moment, the battlefield was silent, then the remnants of darkness dissolved into nothingness. Naruto dropped to one knee, panting, his transformation fading. Shikamaru slumped beside him, exhausted but satisfied. Temari smirked. Not bad for a couple of idiots. Naruto laughed weakly. Yeah, well. We make a pretty good team. But as the dust settled, a single, ominous shadow slithered away into the ruins, unnoticed. The fight was over, for now. The battlefield was a ruin of shattered earth and swirling shadows, the air thick with the scent of burning chakra. Naruto Uzumaki stood panting, his orange jumpsuit torn, his blue eyes locked onto the puppet master's creation, a monstrous figure woven from darkness itself, its joints creaking with unnatural life. Across from him, the puppet's controller, a shrouded figure with eyes like smoldering embers, smirked from the shadows. You're outmatched, Jinchuriki, they taunted, their voice a whisper that slithered through the air. Naruto wiped blood from his lip, his fingers trembling, not from fear, but from the sheer weight of exhaustion. He'd pushed his body beyond its limits, yet the puppet moved with eerie precision, its shadowy tendrils lashing out like whips, carving deep gashes into the earth. Sasuke's voice cut through the chaos, sharp and urgent. "Naruto, now!" The Uchiha Sharingan blazed crimson as he hurled a barrage of shuriken, each one trailing explosive tags. The puppet twisted, deflecting most, but one found its mark, a direct hit to its chest. The explosion rocked the battlefield, smoke billowing, but Naruto didn't wait. He lunged forward, Rasengan spinning violently in his palm, its light cutting through the gloom. The puppet's arm snapped up, shadows coalescing into a shield, but Naruto gritted his teeth and pushed harder. "This ends here," he roared. The Rasengan collided, the force sending shockwaves rippling outward, the ground fracturing beneath them. For a heartbeat, it seemed like victory, until the shadows slithered back, reforming, untouched. The puppet master laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Fool! My creation feeds on your despair. The more you fight, the stronger it becomes." Naruto's breath came in ragged gasps. He'd faced impossible odds before, but this was different. The shadows weren't just attacking his body, they were seeping into his mind, whispering doubts. "You'll fail. You always do." His knees buckled, just for a second, but it was enough. The puppet struck, a shadowy blade slicing toward his throat. Only to be intercepted by Sakura's fist, her chakra-enhanced strength shattering the attack. "Get up, idiot," she snapped, her green eyes blazing. "Since when do you let some cheap imitation of darkness beat you?" Naruto blinked, then grinned, a flicker of his old fire returning. She was right. He wasn't just fighting for himself. Behind him, his friends stood, Sasuke, Sakura, even Kurama's growl echoed in his mind. "You're not alone, brat." The realization hit him like a lightning strike. The puppet thrived on isolation, on fear, but Naruto had never truly been alone. With a surge of determination, he reached deep, not just into his own chakra, but into the bonds that tied him to everyone who'd ever believed in him. The air around him shimmered, golden light erupting as Kurama's power fused with his own. "Let's try this again," he muttered, his voice steady now. This time, when he charged, the puppet hesitated. Its master's smirk faltered. Naruto's Rasengan wasn't just blue anymore, it was a swirling storm of gold and crimson, the very essence of his will. The puppet lashed out, shadows surging, but Naruto didn't dodge. He let them hit, and they dissolved against his light. "Impossible!" the master hissed. Naruto's fist connected. The impact was cataclysmic, a shockwave of pure energy tearing through the puppet, unraveling its form like thread in a storm. The shadows screamed, writhing, before exploding into nothingness. The master staggered, their cloak burning away, revealing a face twisted in horror. You destroyed it?" Sasuke appeared behind them in a flash, his blade at their throat. "Game over." The aftermath was quiet, the battlefield still. Naruto collapsed to one knee, his energy spent, but his heart light. Sakura was already at his side, healing glowing from her hands. "You never make it easy, do you?" She sighed, but there was pride in her voice. Sasuke sheathed his sword, glancing at the horizon. "This changes things," he said quietly. "If one puppet could do this, there are others out there." Naruto nodded, his gaze steady. "Then we'll face them too. Together." And as the sun broke through the clouds, casting light over the scarred earth, the message was clear: no shadow, no matter how deep, could withstand the dawn.